let's dive into it, my friend. Masters of Horror, episode 4, Jenifer, written by Steven Weber, who's actually the lead actor in it, starring Steven Weber and Carrie Ann Fleming. We've got this guy, he's a cop, and he comes across this scene where he sees this guy about to kill this woman with a meat cleaver. He kills the man before he can kill the woman. But as he's going to like rescue her and untie her, he realizes she's got this really disformed and absolutely hideous, and if I could be honest, terrifying face. Like, I watch a lot of scary shit. There is something extra terrifying about the way that this woman looks. So he ends up, I wouldn't say falling in love with her, but just kind of feeling sorry for her. He ends up bringing her into his home. Long story short, she's eating his cat, she's eating his wife, she's eating everybody that he knows. Every time he turns around, he's become almost, in a way, I feel like, obsessed with her. And there's a sex scene between those two. Like every 4 to 5 minutes, there's a kill, then there's a sex scene. Is pretty much the rhythm of this thing. So lay it on me, brother. Your overall thoughts on Jenifer.
I fucking love it. I think it's awesome. I don't think there's anything else out there like it.
Yeah.
Like at all, right? Like it's a really, first of all, it's a powerful little I don't even like to call these TV episodes. They are movies. Right?
Yeah, they went into theaters in Europe and certain places around the world. A lot of these went into theaters. Yeah.
Wow. So like, and I know that Argento even said he wanted to approach it as a movie, not a TV show. And I think everybody that did it. Right. And Argento even said, why would you get these people that are involved if you want TV episodes? You want movies, is what you're saying. You want shorter movies, and movies used to be short. And it just goes to show you that, yeah, you can make one of these kind of movies that has some gross out stuff, has some sexy stuff, has all this kind of energy to it, all this mystery, all this grotesque energy, and do it in just an hour and have it be tight. Right. So first of all, I love it because of the tightness of it. That's one of my favorite things is a lot of these horror filmmakers who were already used to keeping their movies very tight and lean. It's even more of a necessity now, right? And they're making it work, and they're all making it work structurally. This one stands out to me in the first season because this one, now it's probably not the one that goes too far. Takashi Miike's, his contribution was Imprint, which was actually too much for Showtime.
That's what I heard.
And they never even aired it on Showtime, and it came later. In fact, there were scenes that Argento filmed in this one that got cut.
I was wondering if you knew that too.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on.
you heard what they were? There was
it's when she's like sucking the dude's dick in the beginning and when she's eating the kid's dick at the end.
Yeah. Supposedly, it showed up close and personal her munching penises twice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've seen footage of it, man.
Have you?
It's gnarly. She's like ripping it apart like a fruit by the rope, man. Or fruit by the foot, right? She's like, it's one of those kind of things. Super stringy, just right? It's great. It's awesome. But at that time, Showtime's like, I don't know, penis is a bridge too far.
Right.
But no, I really like it because it does kind of play with a lot of the stuff that Argento has played with in a physical manner, right? So Argento likes to play with the idea of the profane and the sacred, and he kind of likes to mix it. What I mean by the sacred is not necessarily a religious connotation, but like an artistic connotation, right? Like he comes from the country that birthed the Renaissance and shit like that, right? So like I said earlier, art and aesthetic is a big part of Argento's upbringing and what he brings to cinema, right? And so in his movies, he's always playing with really gross things in beautiful ways, whether it's maggots infesting a witch dance school coven, right? Or whether it's a beautiful woman crawling through sewage. And like, he likes to play with these kind of juxtapositions. And he does that here with Jenifer, where Jenifer is a beautiful woman with a very vigorous sex drive, right?
She's like the ultimate butterface.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but a very gnarly, terrifying, grotesque, monstrous face. And when this story was initially written in the 70s by Bruce Jones and then illustrated by Bernie Wrightson, and if you've ever seen the art, look at the art of that book. If you look at the art, you look at the panels, Argento is recreating that.
Oh,
and
awesome.
That's another thing that's so cool is that in Europe, the graphic novel, it is highly respected as an art form in Europe, right? And so it's really cool to see such an appreciation for the original work that comes across. The design of the face, that's Bernie Wrightson. The design of the shots, some of the perspectives, some of the lighting, that's Bernie Wrightson. This is a love letter in tribute to Bernie Wrightson graphic storytelling. And of course, it takes an Italian director to give it to us. I think the story is really interesting. It's about obsession, of course, also infection. And though I know that this story was written by Bruce Jones in the 70s and STDs were around, but we hadn't hit that AIDS epidemic yet, it definitely has this lens that you could view it through now of like obsession and temptation mixed with infection, right? Because he gets cut. Right. That cut keeps getting more gnarly. She keeps like licking it. She keeps going at it. Right. He becomes more and more obsessed with her to the detriment of his life. And by the end of it, he looks like a crackhead. He looks like a meth head. He looks like a junkie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
There's that other part where it's like a metaphor for addiction.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's a great film because he's playing with what he typically plays with, but with the actual presence, physical presence of Jenifer and making some of they are not the raunchiest sex scenes he's ever done. Trust me.
But, really?
Oh, no. I mean, his Phantom of the Opera.
I was going to ask you about that.
It's basically a softcore pornography, right?
Well, that's what this feels like. I mean, the sex scenes are so frequent. Like, I would almost have to classify it as softcore pornography.
He was so excited to do it. He talks about that deleted scene where the dude that scene in the car is with the scene where he gets to the blowjob, and you see her tongue and mouth going over his dick and shit like that. And he's like, it was interesting to me to like explore the idea of what it would be like to get a blowjob from fucking that, like that, like but it works because what it does is it makes us unnerved. It titillates us. It also makes us very disturbed, and it shows us that there's a very fine line, a very small, thin membrane between disgust and titillation. Some things that can excite me can repulse another person, right? And that's something that he's playing with here that I think he played with throughout his entire career. And I really like the story. And the performances are good enough, though. The wife, as hot as she is, bro, she's not good in this movie. I don't get that character. I don't dig it at all. But Steven Weber really does a great job.
Yeah.
The lady playing Carrie Ann, I can't remember her last name.
Fleming.
She does a great job as Jenifer for obvious reasons. Right. But yeah, man, like I fucking love it. I think it's great. And I think it's actually one of his better late period works.
Jenifer, what are you doing here?
The first time I saw it, I did not know that it was going to go where it goes. Because basically it gets to the point, she just ate his cat. He tried to take her home, like I said. She eats his cat, so she's got to go. Jenifer's got to go. The wife ain't having it. His son sees her naked. He's having it, but the wife, she's not. He goes to get rid of her. Jenifer comes on to him. I'm not going to lie. I could not believe how sexy it is the first time I saw it because she's so grotesque, but there was something very hot about it. And it really falls along the lines of a lot of porn that you'll see where it's, I don't know, it's like a weird situation where he has something over her. Like she's like almost like a fucking pet.
Yeah, she's like subservient, like in a crazy way, right? And like Argento's playing with that, man. He's doing that on purpose. He's filming it that way, and he's filming it that way so that we do get turned on, right? Because it is really sexy, and then at times scary, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes the fear, right? Like think about like the early days, right? When you're like first having sex, or let's think about any time that you've ever tried to do something that you've never done before, or something that's on the horizon. There's this fear and dread and excitement and titillation that come from it, right? And that's what he's experiencing when I don't know what's going on in the scene with him and his wife when they're having sex and he's like flashing to her, right?
Yeah.
But like he's obviously gone too far. But Jenifer's someone who you can't go too far with, right? And I don't know about you, but I've had sexual partners that were very plain, right, and vanilla, and I've had sexual partners that were way like Neapolitan.
Dude, that's what I was gonna say, dude.
Right?
What I was gonna say.
And I've always figured myself to be in the middle, but like I love the stretch of it, right? I love taking people that are uncomfortable with something and making them more comfortable, and I love being uncomfortable with something and being made to be comfortable with it. Like, I mean, we're freaks in America, right? And at least in Dario Argento embraces that inner freak. And he's not afraid to play with it. He's been playing with it for decades, even when he was making this one. But I mean, that's a very intentional part of this movie, is that Jenifer is to die for. And you do like want that to happen, right? But at the same time, it just shows you, like, man, we're so fucked up sometimes and twisted when we get into that animalistic side of our being and consciousness, where we will just throw everything out the window, including our family, our job, our health. And that's what happens to Steven Weber in this film.
You got any favorite moments that you want to throw at me? I'm sure there's a few to pick from.
Bro, this is so fucked up. you watch this movie and like, what are your favorite moments of this movie? Well, your favorite moments of this movie are some of the worst things that could fucking be in this movie, right?
Yeah.
My favorite scenes, number one, when she's killing the fucking cat.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, rah, like into it. Now, that disturbs me. That bothers me. I don't like seeing that. And that's what I fucking love about this movie, is that one of my other favorite scenes is the car scene when like they first have sex, because you're just like, why is this so hot?
Yeah.
I don't really understand why I'm fucking getting turned on right now watching this fucking movie. And then you cut to a scene like the cat killing scene where it's revulsive, right? Or repulsive, I guess.
That's what it is, though. Exactly what you're saying. He makes you question what I didn't know that I could feel this way about that. He's like, guess what? You can. And look how hard you feel about it right now.
All my favorite scenes are fucked up. My other favorite scene is when she's eating the fucking child from next door. And the whole like homage to Frankenstein that we have there. That's a great fucking scene, right? And how different it's played, and how that movie will go from like to and that scene with the chick, where with the little girl from next door, she just licks her lips. Next time you see him, she's like eating her, right? And then she's eating that fucking kid's dick at the end of the movie. That's another one of my favorites. That's what I'm saying. These movies, like, we're not used to this anymore.
Right.
In 2002 or 3 or whenever this came out. Like, aside from like The Hostel and Saw, and they didn't go as far as some of those movies in the 70s and 80s went.
For sure. I wasn't expecting, and like I said, I did start on this one. The other episodes of Masters of Horror that I've seen, I don't think they're quite as gnarly and as gross as this, but K&B Effects does the effects on like the whole series, Nicotero's company.
Yep.
And I was surprised right off the bat at how hard the series goes. For some reason, I don't know, just because it was Showtime, I wasn't expecting that level of gore and that level of practical effects that you see throughout the series. But this is probably the gnarliest one as far as that goes. As far as like the gore, the intestines flying around, toothy blowjobs. I mean, it's up there for being one of the gnarlier ones. I was gonna say one of my favorite moments is a weird one. In the opening scene, I wish I knew what it was. It's Steven Weber, main character, and his partner. They're sitting in that car together.
Joe Pesci light. That's his partner, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're eating some Chinese food and they're listening to the radio, and there's something like kind of old school, kind of classy, something kind of good, right? Something like tasteful on the radio. And the partner just reaches up and turns the dial, and it's like this country rock kind of generic bullshit. And nothing's said about it, but the main character just kind of like looks at the radio, and you can tell that he's fucking annoyed by the music.
Yep.
And then it carries on. The guy goes out, steps outside to drink his coffee, smoke a cigarette maybe. And it keeps flashing back at how much his partner is fucking raged on that music. Yeah. So it's informing you about these two characters. They haven't mentioned a word about it, but there's this like little thing going on with the music. And then the main character sees Jenifer being attacked down by the river, and it's the partner listening to the music that keeps him distracted, and he can't go help. So the way that this subtle little thing that was never mentioned is so like, if you're not paying attention, you're never going to notice it. It launches the plot in this way, and all of a sudden it's important. And to me, it was like just brilliant directing.
Well, yeah, that bit. It launches the plot and it launches the theme of the movie.
Right.
The whole idea of that one person's trash is another person's sacred art. Profanity to one person could be sacredness to another. And that's something that we don't get in art. And sometimes people take it too far. That's why, like, some people will take a dump on a fucking plate, put some sprinkles on it, and they go out and it's a world famous art piece or something like that, right? But there's art is meant to pierce the veil of experience, and sometimes that is in a very fleshy very visceral, very primitive way. And that's an element of ourselves. And that's the thing is Steven Weber's character in this movie, Frank is his name. Frank has never experienced a sexuality like this before.
Right.
And it overcomes him because there is something within him, within all of us, that wants that caveman, visceral, raw sex, right? And that's the same thing with that music, right? Like we could all sit here and lie and be like, yeah, I just listened to Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and Handel and all that shit. And then be like, nah, man, fuck you. Hot Foghat is Beethoven of 1976.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying, man. Come on. Slow ride, baby. Let's do it. Let's break this down to a practical, applicable level, right? How many of us have been into someone or been into something that is bad for us?
Right.
Not
right.
good. And we know from the fucking start, that motherfucker's a monster. I don't need to be a part of that, but there's something about that attracts us, right? And we wind up getting involved, and all of a sudden everything gets fucked around us, and then we realize, shit, they were a monster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of playing with that idea too. Like, you know, like, and it's even applicable to the audience, not just with the titillation and repulsion aspect, which is a big part of the whole thing, but also the idea that if you know any kind of story structure, if you know anything about story, you know that this movie's going to end the same way it begins.
Right.
So does Steven Weber's character, Frank. So do we, as the audience. So does everybody in this movie. Nobody at any point thinks this movie's going to go well, including Frank. Right? Like at all. So, I mean, it's about that too. It's about that, like, just provoking and poking at that fine line between, you know, repulsion and attraction, but as well as just kind of like, we are all attracted to things that are not good for us. And sometimes it's so obvious, but it's so nice.